fellow bookworms, it's Katie. Today we're talking about audiobooks. Yay! Middle grade, or maybe books that are YA but set on the younger spectrum of YA, because not all YA has to be about falling in love and sex. Alright, today we're going to talk about the Lockwood & Co. series by Jonathan Stroud, which I listen to as audiobooks and has a combined length of 59 hours and 28 minutes, or in other words, 2 days, 11 hours and 28 minutes. So we're going to ask the questions, are these books worth your time? Because nobody just has 2.5 days to waste with nothing. Now there are 5 books in total, and they were published from 2013 to 2017. The titles and my respective star ratings are as follows. The first book is called The Screaming Staircase, and I gave it 3 stars. The second book is called The Whispering Skull, I gave it 4 stars. The third book is called The Hollow Boy, which I gave 3 stars. The fourth book is called The Creeping Shadow, which I gave 4 stars. And the last and 5th book is called The Empty Grave, which I gave 5 stars, which makes an average rating for the series of 3.8 stars. Alright, I'm not really going to summarize the plot of the first book as I usually do, because I have forgotten it. I'm sorry, but I've listened to that book in December and now it is the middle of June, over 6 months later. So, I'm sorry. I will link the Goodreads description down below so you can read it for yourself. But basically, the plot of the first book and all of the other books as well is that 3 children go ghost hunting, or 3 young adults, I'm sorry. The world in this book, it is set in England. 50 years ago the problem started. The problem is an infestation of ghosts that, you know, just turned up and are turning up still. Only children can see them, or children and young adults can see them, which led to the formation of several ghost hunting agencies which are responsible for securing the protection, or which are responsible for the fight against these ghosts. We follow one of these agencies, which is called Lockwood & Co., hence the title of the series. Let's start with the plot. There's a predefined structure to all the books. They work 3 cases in one book. Sometimes these cases are tied together, sometimes not, sometimes they are tied to the overarching plot, but even if the cases are not really tied to anything else, they serve as character development and or world building. Because the author stays pretty close to this structure, the plots get a little bit predictable as we go along in the series. I especially like the overarching plot because it has a pretty strong build-up right from the first book, with twists and turns, and it has a satisfactory conclusion. So let's talk about the characters. Our main character, first-person narrator, is Lucy Carlyle. I would call her a little bit of an unlikable character, to be honest, and at first I was not too pleased that we followed her. A big problem that I had, and that I believe a lot of other people also had, is that she constantly puts other women down, that she has this ingrained girl-on-girl hatred. She is jealous, especially of other girls who her boss, Anthony Lockwood, gives attention to, and she is pretty bullying, especially towards her other co-worker, George Cubbins, who is a little bit chubby, and she remarks on that quite a bit, and that's really not cool. But I love that she has a character arc and that she grows over time, that her character flaws are addressed. She gets lots of development and she, you know, apologizes to George, for example. I came around to care for her in the end. Even her girl-on-girl hate gets a little bit, you know, better. And because she is constantly putting herself down in her thoughts, I mean, we are stuck in her head, and she is usually, you know, thinking in a very self-destructive pattern. That also gets a little bit better, but I don't want to hold that against her or against the book, because I think that is something that is, you know, a societal problem. I think that a lot of girls think in this way. I mean, I am someone who puts herself down constantly, and that is something that is tied to my mental health, which is an entirely different story. But I also think that girls are trained almost to think in this self-destructive pattern, is that good, no, but it's also not the fault of the book that it is that way. And I don't think I personally can't hold it against the book that it is in there, but I was also not the biggest fan of it. Let's move on to another main character, Lockwood. He is a bit of a cliche in that he is this brooding, selfish, secretive, sometimes even downright manipulative, person with a tragic past, and sometimes his character flaws are excused with his tragic past. But he also has a character arc. He comes around to open up and be less selfish, and he's not all bad from the beginning. He is also caring in his way, and he's very ambitious and self-confident, or confident also in his co-workers. Now let's also talk about George. And I love George. I personally think he is too good for Lucy and Lockwood. He's smart, he's confident of himself, he's determined, and he's a loyal friend. Generally, I love the dynamic of the golden trio, if you will. They all grow, evolve, and change over the series. They have a character progression each. Okay, let's talk about the world building. Now, I do think that it is quite an interesting world, and I love that it is consistent throughout the series. Like the rules that are set up in the beginning, that, ghosts don't like iron and salt and fire and silver and stuff like that. This all stays consistent throughout the series. But, the world building leaves enough room so that the author can put a different spin on that and develop the world building into something that is more complex. Yeah, that's the word. I mean, it is a bit on the nose with the, okay, only young adults and children can see the ghosts, so there's the reason why we can exclude the adults. But that is also kind of, part of it being a book intended for a younger audience. In the beginning, I was a little bit confused by the world, to be honest, because there was not a lot of explanation, because the characters would, know what they were talking about when they were talking about different types of ghosts and different things that they did to get rid of the ghosts. But I, as a listener, did not know these things, and I was a little bit confused in the beginning, because the book really requires you to piece together these clues for yourself. There is a glossary. If you have the book in the physical form, there's a glossary in the end, but that I didn't know that as a listener for the audiobook, and really I just love the building and expanding on the lore over the course of the series. Let's talk very briefly about the writing. I can't really tell you a lot about it because, like I said a lot this video already, I listened to the books in their audiobook format, which makes it extremely difficult for me as a non-native speaker to pick up on these little things of the writing. I can analyze writing much better when I actually have it in printed form in front of me. So the only thing that I really can tell you is that it is told in a first-person narrative out of a single POV. We have Lucy, we follow her as the POV character. So that's really it. I really can't tell you more. I am sorry. For the conclusion, maybe let's just start me with the things that I didn't really like, and that was the, as I mentioned previously, body shaming aspect of, George, although that was addressed, as I explained earlier, so it's okay for me because it is a character flaw of Lucy's, and it is addressed. And also Lucy putting herself down, like I also explained earlier, not a big fan of that. She does have a very big inferiority complex, but at the same time I think that is a problem, that a lot of women think in that way and a lot of girls think in that way, and I can't really hold it against that book particularly because it's just a thing of reality that it is that way. And I think Lucy really gets around to liking herself a little bit more and developing self-confidence. Something that drove me nuts particularly, because I'm a lot more emotionally attached when I'm listening to audiobooks, or I'm a lot more emotionally attached to the characters when I'm listening to audiobooks, is that the characters were sometimes dumb for no reason, and it really stressed me out so much because they were doing dumb things and they were making dumb decisions, and I sat there in the middle of the night and I just wanted to sleep, but no, I sat in my bed and I was screaming at my phone at the characters basically, to get back into their iron circle because the ghost was coming. And despite the characters not making the smartest decisions ever. They were still not dying, there were still no real consequences, and it stressed me out, really. It really stressed me out. And then there's this thing right at the end of the 5th book, where one of the side characters that gets introduced later in the series, Holly is her name, kind of hints that she's gay. And she says something on like, "Oh, Lucy, don't you think there are more options, you know, and Lockwood is really not my type because Lucy is jealous of her." It is hinted that she goes on dates and she lives with a girl, and I like that we have kind of representation in this book, but also please could you just state it? I am a member of the LGBTQ community, I am bisexual myself, and I just really wish that that the author would have just committed and stated that she is gay, because it is hinting very strongly at that, and I think that we can put that in YA books as well as middle grade books, because just, you know, we exist and there's no reason why we should be excluded from media. There's a personal gripe that I have with the audiobooks, and that is that those 5 books were read by 3 different narrators. Now I have a thing with voices, that I recognize people more over their voices than their faces, and changing the narrator from book to book was just very irritating for me personally. It's not that these narrators were bad, none of them were, but it's just, I love when a series has just one narrator because I'm used to them, I know to associate the character with them, and it's just, it was a struggle for me. Not really, it wasn't really a struggle, but it was a bit irritating. Some of my favorite parts were Lucy's and the Skull's friendship, and because she has a talking skull, basically, a ghost in a jar, and their friendship, their development, and their conversations were something that I enjoyed a lot. Overall, I would say I had a lot of fun with the series. I was invested in the characters. Occasionally, I found it actually really scary, which might be because I'm a big, you know, ninny anyways. I get scared very easily, and listening to the ghost stories at night when I'm alone at home might not be the smartest move for me. To conclude this video, is this series worth your time? If you want to read some fun middle grade, yes, sure. It has a solid lore, it has interesting characters, it is slightly silly sometimes, slightly scary sometimes, but I think it is worth your time if you're a person who loves middle grade, or if you're someone who wants to just listen to something around the house, you know, if you have a child or something, or if you want to listen to this with your child, then I think that it is fun, it is something that occupies your time, or that you can pop in and just listen to with one ear while doing something else. I do think it is worth your time. Okay, that's it for today. You guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Tell me what you think in the comments below about anything whatsoever. And I hope that you have a wonderful day. I hope you're reading something that makes you laugh out loud today and makes you happy. And I will see you soon. Bye!